Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Aryeh Kunstler. Aryeh, thank you for being in studio.
Thank you for having me.
This is a big moment for me because I've been stalking you to come on the podcast. So I'm glad that you finally said yes. It's rare that someone actually pens out that I reached out to for months and months. And you came all the way here, so I appreciate it.
It's all the way. So, the Van Wyck is a journey, but
that's what I say.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Anyone who knows you, anyone who follows you on social media, I begin a lot of our episodes with, make sure you check out the bio. I'm not going to bore you with a 10-minute bio of Aryeh Kunstler. Check out the socials. It's a different level of hustle. It's just a different level of hustle. It's usually not very early mornings. We don't get posts, but like very late at night and day after day after day, sick, healthy gigs, things like that. Where does that come from? Where does that inherent just like hustle come from?
I mean, there have been different stages of hustle, I guess, and I never attribute it to myself as hustle per se, throughout my career. And I go through different stages, and I've gone through different stages in terms of where I am in my career in music, which also translates to other business end of stuff. But I think what it comes down to for me, especially in this stage now as rediscovering myself as an artist and now a content creator, which I'm fully embracing that term. I think when something works and it's pushing me in the direction of a goal and a dream, and I see that thing is helping me get there, I don't want to let go of that. Even when it's kind of hard for me to do a reel, it's wedding season, it's this and that. Okay, this has been working for me really well. I have to continue doing this because it's leading me closer to where I want to be. So it's less of hustle. I'm okay, this is working. Holy cow, I found an avenue that's finally working for me in a way that I never expected. I got to continue doing it. And part of it is also making sure that it's something that I enjoy. Music, I always say this, music is not a conventional career. We don't start playing music and singing and writing because we think we're going to make money on it. We do it because it's so fun and it's enjoyable and it fills our souls. And so it's important to go back into that. If I was making content, making all these videos, and I didn't have that childish be holy cow, look at this thing that I made every single time I do a video and it comes out good, because I'm not a videographer, I make music, but if you don't have that little giddiness of oh wow, I made a good reel today, and it starts becoming a labor for me, it removes that element of passion. So for me, I try and focus very much, and listen, it's not perfect every time. Sometimes there are days I'm I gotta do a reel, but it's a drive and a passion to be in something that I absolutely love and enjoy.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people, one of the things that I guess the soapbox that I've been on lately is this anti-hustle culture thing. Everyone says, hustle culture is killing people, and I believe that actually the definition of hustle and what hustle culture should be is something that you're talking about that nobody ever talks about, and that is constantly evolving and redefining.
Yeah.
Meaning so many people think that this is where their career is supposed to take them, and as long as it's going on that trajectory, they stay there, even though that might not be what's best inside of them. As long as they're making a little bit more money this year than they did last year, or things are taking off, yet you're talking about evolving based on going back to the core of why you're doing it, and then that further springboards the hustle. So how did you... nobody does that. Nobody does that type of an analysis in their career and in their hustle, and that I assume helped you the most.
Yeah, I mean, my musical career has been constantly that. Actually, it's been I started out as an artist putting out music, and then I was in college, right? So like I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like what was my major? I think it was marketing, with like the liberal arts of business, and then I was fortunate enough to get into the wedding scene. And then I was a guitar player for a long time in the wedding scene. But I was like, okay, I need to advance. If I want to grow, I need to advance. So I learned how to band lead and lead bands. Next thing I knew, I was, involved on the business end. I wanted to learn how the wedding business and the music end of that worked, and took my artist career and put that to the side for many years. I was still writing and recording, but then it also like developed like, okay, I also want to be a music producer. So like I need to do that. And those were going side by side. And then at a certain point, I left, a band that I loved being in, because I had an opportunity to actually like run a business, run an entire wedding band, like from sales to staffing to prepping with clients to operations and dealing with vendors and halls and party planners. And I did that for 5 years because that was the next step for me to evolve. And sometimes like those changes are hard to make, because you get like comfortable, like, I'm like a good band leader already. I'm a good guitar player. Like it's working. I'm getting gigs. Like, okay, but like if I want to level up, then I gotta jump into something. And for me, in this stage of me, like about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I decided, like I had turned 37. I'm 38 now. I said, like, my real dream, my passion, like when I started this whole thing, was that I wanted to be like an artist, like Aryeh Kunstler, the artist. And I've been putting out music, but it always came second to, the wedding thing. And I said, like, if there was ever a time, this is it. Like, I'm not getting any younger, and this is what I want to do. And so that means stepping down from a consistent salary, and going out and like trying to be that. And I kept on saying, like, when am I going to get my shot? Like I'm putting out great songs, music videos, like I am. And in that process, I kind of learned two important things. One thing is that like we have these goals that we want to hit. Like for me, it's playing Madison Square Garden. Like it's my dream since I'm 13 years old to play Madison Square Garden. Most of the concerts I've been to have been at Madison Square Garden, and
I will be there. By hook or by crook, God willing, I'll be there.
So will I.
And I hope so. I hope so.
And I haven't done it yet. I haven't.
Do you mean headlining, or you just mean playing any gig there?
I think just playing at Madison Square Garden, the arena, like that. That's my goal. I don't know. Headlining would be a nice bonus. And like when Ishai Rebo did it last year, we made, my whole team made a push to get the opening slot, and it didn't pan out, and I had a hard time with that. But I also, that really taught me is that like I'm literally shooting for this like the top, and I had lost focus of like everything in the middle, and it kind of taught me to like zero in. And everyone says be present, but it's like no, like Hanukkah, I did a concert in Indianapolis, Indiana. And, it's an out-of-town-ish community, and they couldn't even figure out how to turn the lights off in the room for a bit. And I was like, this is... I kind of grounded myself. I was like, I'm in Indianapolis and Indiana. They flew me out here to perform for them. This is the dream. This is what I always wanted. So it's learning to, like, kind of be present in your goals and, like, accept that. And the other thing, I don't actually remember. I said there were two things, but I lost my train of thought because that's the way it works.
We're going to keep hustling right through it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because I'm the same way. I find that very often we lose sight of that original. And it's fun. I mean, I imagine that getting on a plane, going to Indianapolis, again, not the dream gig like Madison Square Garden, but when you're there, especially in your business, I feel like if the crowd is there, that crowd is probably dreaming of getting Aryeh Kunstler there. Like we've never had Aryeh Kunstler in Indianapolis. It's funny. I got married in Los Angeles in the summer. It was hotter than whatever. And I don't know if you've ever been to Woodland Hills, California.
No.
Very hot.
Okay.
Like 110 degrees outside. And the singer at my wedding, shout out, maybe he can be on the podcast, was Barry Weber. And I was the first out-of-town wedding he ever did. And I remember seeing him there, and he was like so excited. Because it was like he had some guy flew him to California. Now, the reason why we got him was because he was cheaper than the other people at the time, and we wanted that vibe and whatever, and flying out to California, which was fine. It was amazing. And now whenever I see him at weddings, he's like, "Are you?" Because like I've reminded him many times, and not that I deserve anything from that, but I think that when you have those moments, it's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, it's just a bunch of people who are just really want me to be here. And that's got to be the energy that you love.
I think very often people like they aren't able to take in their wins because they're so focused on where they're not. And which was a very big learning and big thing for me to realize and integrate, because I haven't played Madison Square Garden yet, but look, like when I get a gig, whether it's like a small gig or a theater gig, like it teaches you look where I am now. Like I did like a bunch of theater shows in February, March, April. I had never done a theater show in my life. Like standing on that stage in front of thousands of people, like you have to like try and it's not Madison Square Garden, but holy moly.
It's a lot closer to Madison Square Garden than my mother's living room.
But it's not even that. It's like, I'm here now. Like this is being present and, checking off your wins. Like it's such a more positive experience than being like, okay, that was awesome, but like, now how do I get to the garden? Like, whatever. Like, it'll come.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because a lot of what we talk about is the tagline is getting past the why to the how, because everybody says my why is this, my why is that. But I want to know, like you're saying, how? Practical advice. Check off your wins. Realize when you're seeing the success. Realize that you are successful. And that will continue to fuel your hustle to the future. And I think that that's so important in all of this, is that we don't control that.
Yeah.
We control our hustle.
Yeah.
And everything else outside of that is
Yes.
I mean, again, I believe that if you didn't feel like you were putting your best effort forward to get to your goals, you'd feel differently about it.
Oh yeah, and there have been times. I think part of why I didn't get to my goals in music until now is because I wasn't putting all of this energy into myself and my own music.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about your music for a second, because I've heard you talk about the songs that you thought were going to take off that didn't, and the ones that you weren't. Obviously, you don't put out something you don't like, but there's the ones that you think are just going to hit it out of the park, and maybe they don't, or the ones that you think are fair. Everyone has to have albums with lead songs and not.
Yeah.
How does that shape you when you realize that sometimes your perspective of what you think is going to take off doesn't, or something that you don't think is going to take off takes off? And then I'm going to get to the viral reel, but I just want to, like, those songs themselves. Like Keli's amazing. Keli should have been a Billboard. It should be. It's one of my. It's just. It should be. So it's going to get there. But
what's funny about Keli is it took a year for that song to do anything. It literally took a year for that song to literally go anywhere. But I actually don't have that mindset anymore about songs and expectations. That's something I had to work on. When I came out with Avodat Halev, it was a year ago, August, almost a year ago. I had worked on that song for 2 years, which is a crazy thing, trying to get different artists on it. Eventually, Dodja came in. Honestly, everything about that song is unbelievable. And the amount of passion on both of us and Avi Turner, the co-producer and mixing engineer, everybody that worked on that song, was sure this song was going to be mega, type of thing. And then when it came out, I actually was I had a very depressive feeling when I put it out. I was like, this is a song I put my entire existence in and have these giant expectations, and now it's just out. Forget about results. It was just out, and it was just
what am I going to do now?
And people there is a thing about songwriters and artists when they put something out, they feel like they released a part of themselves to the world. It wasn't that for me. I think it really was that I had thrown so much into this thing, and now it's done.
How do you know when it's done?
You got to learn to let go. Artists, musicians especially.
2 years, but that's the
it wasn't 2 years of trying to be perfect. It was 2 years of I think this song is amazing. Let me try and get some other artists on it because it's a collab song. Being constantly turned down for that, thinking the song is not as good as I thought it was, shelving it. Chad Kamenetsky, our buddy, he's
Shout out, should also be on the podcast, by the way.
He should, by the way. He said to me, he's like, you need another song like Keli where it's like a collab. I was like, oh, I have the song on my hard drive. He's like, are you out of your mind? You have to put this out. And coming up with ideas, and then finally Dodja, and then starting again, because now I actually have my collab and like how do we shape the song and reshaping it and with my taste and his taste. Anyway, but for me, it's less about perfection. I'm actually not one of those artists that are like a perfectionist when it comes to mixing and record. Like if it's good, it's good. Like no one's gonna hear that difference. Like get it to the point where like I'm happy with it, whether or not that guitar is too loud or not. Like no one cares.
What I feel about a lot of social media content too.
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, obviously it can't be garbage.
Yeah.
But like.
Yeah, just go.
There's that kid whose finger appears in the video a little bit. Like, it's fine.
I came out with a reel this week that has a typo in the translation of the Hebrew, and my wife pointed it out to me. And by that point, I had like a couple thousand views, and I was just like, I'm just not taking it down.
I do it intentionally.
Oh yeah,
but sometimes in the captions because people will reach out.
Yes,
and then I do the thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that you've given the detail.
So the captions are one thing because then like a week later you can edit the video. It's like it's spelled along with an I in the middle. Like, but like at a certain point I was like, okay.
And by the way, how many thousand views has it gotten? And
yeah, no,
doesn't matter.
Actually, I didn't get a single comment. No one even saw it. But yeah, about the expectations with songs. So, like I tried figuring out like why like there was such a I don't know, like unpleasant feeling. And then like the song did well, people loved it. Is it like a smash hit? Did it like blow up throughout the world? No. And that was like, wow, like how? Like I thought this was it. And I think what it came down to is because like I was putting out music to try and get a hit. And it goes back to like we were saying before, like I was putting out this song. I think every song that I put out with the expectations that it would be big, like that, Up Like a Lion did well.
Great song.
Yeah.
Great song. Wow.
From all those songs, I thought like these are the songs that are gonna take me there. Keli, I did not think it was a smash.
It's just such a good collab. But
when I put it out, I didn't say to myself like this is the song that's gonna change everything. Like I was like, it's a really good song. I just said that. Like that's how I felt. So what happened was, and I love the song. I love Carduner. Like so, like doing it for the love of it suddenly shifts it again. Like I'm not doing it for success. And as artists, especially, like if you're doing things because you want to have hits, like yeah, like okay, there are some artists that works for. For me, like my passion in my music and a song that like just like I enjoy making and I connect to, and I let go of all the expectations, and it doesn't matter if anybody's going to listen to it because like this song fills me up. Generally, people tap into, and I'll tell you, the next song I put out, Mara Cohen, I knew would not be a hit.
Okay,
I knew. Like I had written that song earlier the year. I knew it was coming out the day after Rosh Hashanah. I was like, this is not going to be a hit. And I actually said to myself, like, there are different ways of recording. Like, I can send drums to be recorded in Israel, and I can send, things to different places and, have them recorded. And this one I was like, no, I want to, like, this song has a vibe. I want to, like, book a studio for the day. Went to downtown Brooklyn, booked a great studio, brought in a drummer, bass player, another guitar player. We tracked the music live, like, to give that, like, that real flavor. I had it mixed by like one of my dream mixing engineers. And honestly, like I knew this song was not going to be one that was going to go kaboom, but like I just wanted it to be amazing. He sent me the mix. Like usually when someone mixes, like kind of when you take all the parts and you make it that one cohesive product. He literally sent it to me, and usually there are notes. I just said, okay, we're good, we're done. Like I had no notes. Like
wow.
we just. And
because when you left that day, you knew it was what you wanted. Forget about what everyone else wanted.
It just felt so good. That song feels so good. And so now, like every song, and I'm working on a new original album. Like the songs on that album, like I'm not focusing on what's going to be successful. I'm focusing on like what speaks to me, and I think, especially in the genre of Jewish music, like there's a very high focus on being successful. And then when someone is successful by doing something a little bit different, everyone tries to do that same thing. So, there aren't a lot of trendsetters in the industry. But if you look at like Ishay Ribo, that's like he did something very different. And I don't think intentionally. I think it was, this is the style that I am.
He was like so cute. Like he was like this, like just like Israeli
Yeah,
dude
but
who was
he
just
just
playing
like
a guitar.
he recorded music in the style that spoke to him, and people are like, "Oh, that speaks to me." He wasn't trying, and like I think for me now, like this new album is, it's definitely a departure from old art. There are elements of like my style in it, but it's a real departure from my other releases. It's falling in line of what I did with my Reels album and what I'm doing online, but still like on a more produced level. It's all songs. Like whenever I'm like, are people gonna like this? I just like, I don't care. I like this.
20 years.
Yeah.
You've been doing this over 20 years. And yet you're still finding the new passion that speaks to you. That when people ask, how can a person hustle in an industry that many people burn out in, forgetting about being successful, moderate success.
Yeah.
I assume if you stick around the wedding scene long enough, the gigs will come. They might not be the biggest gigs, but like you can.
No, it's already had a giant shift.
But that's what I'm saying is, but to redefine your music style, I can't wait for the album. But I'm just saying, like, meaning, it's funny that you say old Aryeh and new Aryeh.
Oh yeah, big time.
What
They're
can I
actually
ask
like
what
they're
that means?
different stages of Aryeh. Like there's the Aryeh of like my first two albums. Like, literally last night someone came over to me like, "Oh, your first album from the depths." Like I rock that in Yeshiva. I love that album. I was like, I actually don't relate to those albums that much anymore because the music is great and like a lot of the songs, they come from the right places, but like they're so not deep the way I feel like I have gone with my music. And then there's like, post life hitting in the face Aryeh, which really started, Up Like a Lion, Keli, these words, like all these songs that, Rise Again, like all that phase and all that stuff, which I was like, oh, I'm learning how to like actually like put myself into my music, which is like an experience. And now I think I'm in that third phase of Aryeh, which is like, it's almost like a focus no longer on the music, like on what can be successful and what isn't in a way. And it's more of a focus on like connection and an experience. I always say, like, I tell people like what I learned with Instagram is that people want to have an experience. The successful things on Instagram, if you look at it, like from Yechiel Jacobs to me, like, but if you think about it, they provide an experience, they provide something that suddenly it evokes an emotion. Like Yechiel makes people laugh. That is something that people need to laugh, especially these days. People also need to feel and have healing. So like they tap in to what I'm doing musically, and it sits with them in a way. And what I'm tapping into now with my original music is I'm in the phase, and people know a little bit that like I'm in the I've entered a little bit in the healing space, breath work and musical circles and stuff like that. That like that's where I want my music to go, and less about me and the success and the massive hits. And yeah, I'm human, I have an ego, like I have my wants, like that's how
MSG,
yeah, and it's totally fine. Like sometimes I grapple with that, like I don't know, like if you really focus on giving, no, like I was made a human with these things, like that's how it's supposed to be. But really a focus on just like going to a place where like I am so filled up with the music, and I feel like something in the music that can take people to a different place. And really, like, let's say this new album and even the Reels album, like I want people to sit down and listen to this album and like just go somewhere else for a little bit. Like it's a real experience, not just like a hit song. Like I want them to go places. And I think that in a way that is real artistry, especially when it comes to music.
But do you think that people appreciate that? Meaning the guy who came over to you last night and said that album, that I don't want to knock on the average person, but that guy is not appreciating the beauty of the music and of the soul that you actually put into that album. Because you're saying your soul is much more in this album. How do you get people to like actually appreciate you're putting it seems like you're putting a lot more emotionally, which obviously will come through in the music, into this new album than previous albums?
I think it's important to just, like I said, just like don't. I'm not expecting anything from anybody. Like,
So hard.
that's it. Like, I'm not expecting anything from my listeners. Like, if it goes, it goes. If it's not, I made an album that, like, I think I made for myself, and it's something like all the way. I didn't have. I'm like not having expectations. I'm not like. This is the album I want to make now. So this is the album I'm going to do. Like, I don't have a record label breathing down my back that I should have like success. Like, this is where I want to go. So I think people are going to touch into it because I'm getting the signs, and this can lead into the Reels thing, because like people are gravitating towards a new style of me, what I do on my Instagram Reels. Like, oh, you go into that. Like, follow their lead. You know, if they like that, it's telling you something.
So I have been dodging the viral reel on purpose, because, and this, I'm not sure this has happened live yet, so we're just going to do it, and we're going to embrace it together. So I messaged you when the Reels thing started taking off. I don't know if you remember. At the time, I was in Aviles for my father. He should rest in peace. And so my kids came home and told me about the reel, one of my kids. I'm talking about specifically about the I Don't Alarm reel, one of my favorite songs of all time. And before I listened to the reel, before I got to see the reel, because I wasn't listening to music at the time, we started singing I Don't Alarm every Shabbos at least two of the Shabbos meals at our table. What I wasn't ready, and I had seen it, but the emotion that I wasn't ready for was the collab with your father is just amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what took it off. I think that there's a lot that took it off.
Yeah.
It was the first thing I watched when I came out of Avelis. A friend of mine actually created a playlist for me
That's
of
awesome.
all the things I missed. It wasn't on there because the album wasn't out yet.
Right, it wasn't out yet. Yeah.
But my wife and I were just like sitting there, perfect crash in the background if that doesn't get edited out. But my wife and I, I'm just trying to break the emotion here. My wife and I were sitting there, I was like bawling in my living room. Like, it's such a good song. It's so good. I hope when you were recording it, you realized how epic it was. But I assume you didn't think it was going to do what it did.
You know, it's funny. That song, first of all, thank you for sharing that, because that's, you know, again, but that song, basically, the story behind the reel is I spent pretty much almost every year of my life on Pesach in a hotel. And then we used to start singing around the table. Like, my father would start like a kumsitz around the table, and my entire, like, pretty much life until I was in my 20s was like on Pesach. Like, my father people, like, you had 100 people around the table singing, and then turned into Chol Moed, we would play. And that's like, maybe that's why I'm a little bit kumsitzed out. My entire like Pesach existence, like, I would have to be by the table singing, and it wasn't forced, you know, obviously, but and then I became a real part of it. But that song, like, when my mother would always go like, that song, do I don't know, like, every year, like, early on. But we would actually wait till like the most people were there, because like everybody connects to that song somehow. Even though like the non-Jewish waiters there would sing it along with us, you know.
Oh God, it's such a good song.
And so like once I started having like some success with these reels, and I think I'd done the collab with Benny Friedman first, and I was like, oh wait, there's something to these collabs. I went to my parents for a meal, and I was like, you know, we should do Adon Olam. Like, we should do it. We should do it for Mom, you know, like, what the heck? So he came in one day, and we did it, and it came out great. And my father was like, is it even good? I was like, I don't know, but who cares? Like,
it's pretty good. Just the imagery, you're not really looking at each other. Like, I can see it. It's so good.
Yeah, and I didn't expect that reel to do what it did, but it's interesting. Like, the audience for that reel is crazy, not just from like the Jewish community, like Christians and people all over the world just commenting. I think part of it is the song, and part of it is me and my dad, like, together.
So I want to get to what it's like to go viral, because I think that's an important thing for our listeners to hear about. But I don't know anything about music.
Yeah.
Like, I played the drums in high school, and my father threw them away when I went away one summer because he hated the noise. I want to pick up the guitar, which I think I'm committed to doing because my son just started playing. But your voices are not like, it's not like choir, you know, like
Yeah.
they don't, it's so good because, and I don't know what the musical term for this is, but there's like contrast in like your key and his, like his voice is very deep.
Yeah.
And like, it's not, I don't know if it's not supposed to work, and that's a wrong thing to say to an artist, but like, it's not a natural collab other than the fact that it's your father, but yet it's so.
I think the key the key with all the reels is like, don't spend too much time with it, because if you start spending and perfecting it, it's not going to sound natural. So if, if you just go ahead and like do it, and like, we've been singing, like I said, we've been singing together for years. So like, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this part, you do this part, you do the harmony here, you do the harmony here. And it was like, chick-chock, it just kind of worked.
It's funny how like it was probably one of the easiest, like, vibe.
Yeah, it was, it's funny. It wasn't the reel that I expected to take off. I expected the one with Benny to do well, but I didn't expect to do it as well as it did. I mean, at that point I was averaging, 200,000-300,000 views a reel, like for it to like go in a day to like 500,000 or something that was nuts. And then then it took time to get to 1 million.
What's it like when you're looking at, when your phone is blowing up with the views or the likes or the things, and you're just like, this is nuts.
So the one that like really went crazy fast, and it's almost at 1 million now, was the one I did with my daughter, Basia.
Yes.
For a number of reasons, I know why that did well. Because I knew it would do well. First of all, I collabed in terms of reels with like the artists that we were the song we were covering. I also felt it was really important. I happen to be a huge fan of artists in general, like doing things in success. I think a lot of, especially music, it's a really funny thing. Like, we get jealous and we get like competitive, even though like music is the one thing not to be competitive about, because we're each our own art. Like if I'm going to be successful, it's because people translate to my art. That doesn't mean they won't tap into your art. It's not like two different competing pizza stores, You can listen to my music and your music. Anyway, so I happen to be a huge fan of this whole Kolisha movement in the Jewish world, like the women's only, like, first of all, now that I have daughters, like it's huge for them, like to have like being able to go to a concert feeling empowered, and they're not putting out like garbage content. Like the stuff that they're putting out is high quality. Shandy Plotzker, Bracha Jaffe. So like in a way, like not only was it just a reel with me and Basia, but it was also like, and I wrote in the caption, it's like a real ode to them for what they're doing. And I think that really like gave the real push. So what happened? What's it like? My phone, I literally have to put it down.
But that one, do you think it would have been as successful if you hadn't hit the other virals? That came later, didn't that? That came after the
that came after Alum.
So meaning algorithms working different.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
When you go from 10,000 to 100,000, you probably don't remember what that was like. But you see a reel that's going to 500,000, and then you're like, this thing, it will take time, but it's going to hit 1 million views.
Yeah.
Like that.
By the way, it doesn't happen often, and once you get it, like you have expectations for yourself. That was something I had to work on for myself. And like,
what happens when one doesn't hit now? How do you feel? The hustle.
So that's work. Internal work I've done. I actually have had some amazing conversations with, there's a guy, Shut Up Lyle.
No.
You gotta check him out. Ellie Stamen. He's like does the he's got the blonde hair at the eyes. He does like a little bit of the, not to get into political stuff or controversy, but he does like satire, pro-Palestinian stuff, which is he's killing it. And we had a whole talk because we were talking about like different struggles as content creators. And he's like, this reel I put out, I thought it would do so well. It didn't do anything. And I was like, right, because unlike, like, even in today's world of music, it's so easy to put out music. Like, if it doesn't do well, you just move on to the next one.
The beauty of the ability of people constantly consuming your content,
it's
is
just
they don't even notice.
And it's also, it's like, that's number one. Yeah, that's very true. And number two, it's like, you can't get it every time. For me, I have like an expectation for every reel. Like, it needs to get the K. It needs to get like over the 10K at least. So that, like, for me, like, I bug out, like when a reel is like crawling a little bit, even like the live reels that I post, which I know will not do well. Like, I'm sitting there like, get there. But it's important to learn that like that is content creation. You are putting out a high amount of content. Not all of them are going to hit. Sometimes after a while, you're like, okay, I need to do something that's going to hit, and I think people are bored of the style, and And then I start playing around with different types of reels, like storytelling reels, like when I came out with my last single, and like now that I'm going to be putting out stuff for the album, I'm actually going to be like doing release reels, which is like a major departure from everything I've been doing, and I'm like, maybe they won't go well, and I'm going to have to force myself to just not care as much and do what I need to do to promote what I'm trying to sell. And
the album will do well.
The album will be what it will be, you know? But I think it's important, like, as content creators, like, let go of the pressure. Like, have fun making content. Like, the same way, go back to, like, just enjoy doing it. Like, and if you get another viral hit, awesome. If you don't, you don't. But, like, just keep on putting stuff out there because people get stuff. If you're providing useful content for people, like the 1-2 people, like I get messages all the time that are just like, thank you for your music. You know, this. I have a crazy story.
My last question was gonna be, what has been the most impactful thing to you personally that has happened, or crazy thing from the virality?
One of my earliest videos, someone commented that her brother was killed in the Nova Festival, and she moved after October 7th. She moved to Miami, and she and her family have not been able to even like remotely listen to music. Like we just, you know, and she said, and then I discovered your page and like, you're all we listen to and thank you. And like, we started a dialogue and like, you know, it's just really incredible. And I had a gig in Florida and I went to their apartment. I surprised them. And like I walk in the door, and it's like a family, but a bunch of little kids. The little kids were like, Aryeh, and ran to me like I was like their uncle who hadn't, not their uncle, like a family member that they haven't seen in a while, and I sat and like we had lunch together, and we just like we stayed connected.
Did you bring your guitar?
Yeah, and then I sat down, I played a couple of songs for them, and like everyone's like, wow, that's so nice. You know, the people that I didn't like advertise it, but like, you know, no, like that was for me. Like,
that's the fuel.
That was for me. Like that's crazy. That's crazy for me. And that's what it's about. I think that's what like the biggest focus for me, like I said, is like, it's not about me. It's not about me. So I need to just enjoy doing what I love. I thank God I've been given a talent and an ability to, you know, to do the thing and see what I can give to the world.
But isn't it ironic that when you take a step back and say it's not about me, you end up getting the most personally out of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's that reel wasn't about you. It was about the people, and the person reached out to you, and then that has the most impact on you, which is about you.
That's and that, by the way, this all ties in together. Everything is like doing it because it's love is for you, but it's also like doing it out of like because you love it and you want to give to the world. It also like releases the expectations. Like if you're releasing a song that you want to be a hit and that's your purpose for releasing a song, for me, that's like, it's a very me thing. When a focus of a song is like, I want somebody to listen to this and I want them to close their eyes for like the 3 to 5 minutes. Like the first single that I have from the album is coming out in August. I want people to sit down and listen to this song in their car on the drive home, or like just take a few minutes and go somewhere and connect to themselves, connect to God, whatever it is, and have an experience that can do something for them and have that little shift for their day. That's what it's about. That's really, I firmly believe that is what it's about. And that's why I've been given, this ability of music. I'll tell you one other thing, kind of going also back to the MSG and tying it in a hustle way, also like even a business mindset. For a long time, I thought like my success or any success is going to come through other people. like I'm gonna play MSG with Isha Rebo. That's gonna be I'm gonna open up for Isha. I'm gonna do this show. I want to get in. I'm gonna collab with this guy. I want the success. That's what's gonna bring me success. And things don't pan out, and like you get disappointed, and when they don't happen, or when you get denied. And I always say this to Chad. I was like, the best thing ever is the fact that like, oh, like success. If you were just doing it for you and being true to yourself and just doing your own thing, like you make your own avenues. That's how you make your own avenues, and
And by the way, you feel much more. You feel better about it because it's from you.
Yeah. So.
And by the way, I think that's a lot of going from being the as you said, the internal work that you did to go from being just the band participant.
Yeah.
Literally sitting behind the guy.
Yeah.
To leading the group and doing all that. I think that's incredible. And I can't wait for the single. I will just tell you before we get to our close, but the Reels album, I go upstate in the summer on the weekends. Reels album, Palisades Parkway, or more importantly, when you get on the 6. I don't know if you travel upstate a lot.
By Bear Mountain.
When you get on the 6, you go there and you're overlooking the thing, and the Reels album is going. You have no service.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's scary because it's one lane. But during the day when that going up there, it's amazing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very proud of the album.
It's also so simple. It's just like, it's so. There's something when you talk about breath work, all that kind of stuff. There's something just so natural and simple and just foundational about it. So
yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how that whole thing just happened. But it was a fun album to make. It was really like enjoyable. I'm sorry to digress into music world. You re-recorded them? Yeah.
It wasn't the Reels?
Pretty much the only one that's actually, there are a few things that have the Vihisha Amda Halev Shali Mishaberach one, that's actually the Reels. And they all flow. They were actually all similar tempos and keys, so it just worked. Don Olam is fully re-recorded. The only one that actually has elements of the Reel in it was Kanfei Ruach. Because the vocals were just so good.
I've been waiting to drop this on the podcast, so thank you so much for going there, because I almost forgot. I had a duet in my high school graduation cantata.
No way.
For Kanfei Ruach. And it made me feel so, this is about me. I know you said that this is not supposed to be about me or you. This is the first Keep Hustling moment about Aaron Gordon on the podcast. My wife and kids have been making fun of me about my wife for 14 years about that song. What is that song? Who sings that song? It sounds ridiculous. How do you know that song? Why do you sing it all the time? Let's go to the recording.
The best song.
It's so good. And I literally, first of all, the words are incredible. If you actually know what it's saying. I found recently, was cleaning up my parents' apartment, found my high school graduation cantata video. I've gone off the Kolisha thing, and it's a duet with a girl, also initials AG. You know who you are if you're watching this. Thanks for that duet. Thank you, Ms. Goldberg from Ramaz, for making that happen for us. But it was like, whatever. So thank you for that. Thank you for making me normal.
That song is, lyrically, it's just...
My mother-in-law is Israeli, and so we bond over a lot. I grew up going to Ramaz and doing things like that, and I learned a lot of these songs. It's so good. But anyway, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. This is a lot of fun. Everyone, if the album's not out yet, then you should check it out. Maybe we'll wait till the album's about to come out, or when it's coming out, and we'll do it, and it'll be fun. We have a closing tradition on this podcast. I know you may need to go to the paper for this, where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite inspirational, motivational quote and what it means to them, and what it means to their hustle. And with that, I'll turn over the floor to you and say thank you, Aryeh, for being here.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. This is awesome. My favorite motivational quote is choose your hard. Choose your hard. I saw this actually a couple months ago, and it completely changed my life. It's hard to not be successful or to not have purpose, and it's hard to put in the work. It's hard to be on a diet, and it's also hard to not fit in your clothes. It's hard, whatever. It's choose your hard. And I literally, I try and implement this all the time in a lot of areas. But I'll give you an example, just since we've been talking about Instagram and the Reels, it's been wedding season for me. Thank God it's been busy, and I'm exhausted, and I kind of started slipping on content a couple of weeks ago. And sometimes I'll reuse old ones because certain people didn't see the original ones, etc. But I got home from a wedding. I think it was like 12 o'clock at night. I was falling off my face. And I was like, I really need to go to sleep. But I had a crazy day the next day. And I was like, if I don't make a reel now for tomorrow, it'll be a full week without a reel. And like I said in the beginning, like this Instagram content creator thing is working for me, and I want it to continue. Like I really want it to continue. I like what I'm doing there, and I want it to keep on going. So at 12 o'clock at night, I said, okay, what reel am I doing? I'm still wearing my suit. I was like, you know what? Let me start this idea, this chuppah series, where people on Instagram are actually going to see me like this idea of what I do from weddings, that I sing at chuppahs, and that hopefully it'll be a marketing tool to book me. And I sat at 12:30 at night. I sat down and I did the Bowie Kala reel, which actually did well and booked me a couple of jobs. And choose your hard. Like it's hard to wake up the next morning and realize that I won't have time the rest of the week to do a reel and be disappointed. That's hard. Or choose your hard and, you know, even though you're tired, do the work because you want it. Choose your hard.
Love it.
Yeah.
Aryeh Kunstler, thank you for being here. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good and always keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.